All right, next up, I'm not sure where he is, but he's from North Carolina. Andrew Kasab.
Hey, that was fantastic. Big thanks. This is the one thing that I really enjoy is coming back here, and of course, big thanks to John and all the crew that have showed up. And I learned this today. I love the fun trivia that you get to learn by listening to, of course, of all things, trivia on podcasts. And David Gans, who's here today, I think could probably speak to this. That there is a phenomenal history of having artists, musical artists in San Francisco help out with a lot of health for their local residents, and it's really cool. I did not know that there were so many events that occurred with Bill Graham and Grateful Dead that really helped spawn on a whole lot of help with the community there, not just at the concerts, but also with the local community, and that's pretty cool. David Gans could probably speak to that a little bit better than I can, as I know that he interviewed a lot of folks and actually was quoted on the podcast. It was the Dead.net podcast on those situations and how that occurred. So big thanks to John and all the great folks helping out the Cancer Connections in San Francisco. My name is Andrew Kasab. I'm based out of the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I've got a bunch of strings here to play on, and I'm going to start off with playing on a baritone acoustic here today. Can you hear me okay, John?
Yeah, sounds good.
Excellent. And then, of course, I know that there was a little bit of a cancellation, so I'm going to go a little bit longer, as John was saying. But here's the first one here. This is a piece that was originally done by Don Ross, and he played it on a baritone acoustic as well. It's kind of different. Not a lot of people sit down and learn these things. This is one called Tight Trite Night.
Oh, that was sick, man. That was great.
So David Gans was in the chat asking about. You mentioned him earlier.
Yes. So there was it was an interesting sort of thing. It was, I was listening to Grateful Dead .net podcast earlier, and of all things, Gans was on it in a part of their recorded series on the 1973 Keezer show that was in San Francisco by the Grateful Dead, and also that they had Waylon Jennings there. But not only that, that one of the things that's really great, I don't know that a lot of people know all the little things that the Grateful Dead and also Billy Graham did. It was really amazing for just concerts in general and the way that they evolved technically and the way that they dealt with the audience. But one of the things that they did was is that they had local San Francisco doctors and USC doctors and med students come in to make sure that the crowd was safe. And it started up a program that Graham continued on at the various concert series that occurred in that he carried on at like Winterland and also at Keezer, for example, or Cow Palace. And what they did was is they brought in these med students to make sure to take care of people. And they actually published a paper that really documented what would happen at the different crowd sizes. And they noticed, you know, if it was a certain amount of crowd, then you would have a certain amount of people who need attending to. And so that's pretty phenomenal that that was one of those things that just kind of randomly came out of the San Francisco scene. The other thing that was with that, though, was is that these doctors and med students actually also donated their time to help the local San Francisco community. And this is in the early 1970s. So they're helping as of course, the Haight area transformed from one thing to another, and also the community there. So it was pretty amazing to see that Bill Graham was, yes, rock med, exactly. He's got it. That Bill Graham and the Grateful Dead and all these other folks really helped kind of lead forward in getting a community sort of based aspect of medical care for folks, and also tying it to music events. And so it's just really kind of like another one of those fun little trivias that you find out about, you know, the history of music. And I love the Grateful Dead. And I love the fact that they had such a great sort of community following and they worked with folks like that. So it was kind of cool. And then, of course, hey, look, you've got a guy who's, at what time is David coming on?
I'm going to look that up. Give me 2 seconds.
Well, while you're looking it up, I'm going to keep playing a little bit of music. But you know what? It's fantastic to see that here you are helping out Cancer Connections, and you get to see a lot of fantastic music, and then also maybe learn a little bit more than you really kind of bargained for with just music. My name is Andrew Kasab, and I'm out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and I want to thank you very much for participating, and also big thanks to John for helping out with this, and of course you, the good folks who are sitting there watching. This right here, this is a harp guitar. This is a Timberline model harp guitar. And I'm going to play a piece right here by a gentleman by the name of Michael Hedges, who was a harp guitarist, and also play a couple of original pieces as well. It's a little different kind of instrument. It's got 12 strings, and it tends to get into a little bit lower sort of range. So we'll hear a little bit of that right now. Hang on one second. too.
Excellent.
When is David? When's David coming on?
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. I had it a second ago. 7:10 Pacific.
So 7:10 Pacific, and wow, that's a while to go between now and then. And so you can think of all your questions for David in between now and then. And the meanwhile, of course, there's a great slew of performers coming up as well. So here you are.
Wait, you're playing for 5 hours and 20 minutes. I thought, right?
Where is that voice coming from? Yeah.
I'm a ventriloquist.
I love it. No, I will not be playing for 5 hours and 20. Not today. Because there's a lot of other talent that's coming up. I'm going to play another one on the harp guitar here, though. This is one that I wrote called Fireflies. As I love that we're coming up on this season right now where you can go outside and see the fireflies bouncing around. It's magical. It's wonderment. And that's the one thing I love with stuff like this is that, you know, if you find yourself out in the beauty of the world and you feel that you're kind of reverting back to that little kid again where you're like, look at that. It's always fun. So here's the song I wrote called Fireflies. And you can see all my music at andrewkasab.com. On the Bandcamp link there, you can listen to songs, you can buy an album, you can listen to an entire album of harp guitar music to your wonderment and delight.
That's beautiful. That was really good.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, and that's the one thing that I love with that stuff is that you forget sometimes. I think as an adult, you know what it is to really kind of dip back into that fun as a kid would, and I really enjoy that. You know, it's really kind of a neat sort of thing where you get to see that kind of element with kids, but not only that, that you yourself. And I know, of course, from traveling around the country, it's like those things where you're out in the middle of the desert and you look up and you see the stars and the 360 around you. And it just really kind of brings you back to those kinds of moments. Kind of like if you've been to a planetarium, but then for real. so those skins are kind of fun. This next piece that I wrote, this is one that I actually wrote with that in mind. I got a chance to do a street festival years back, and as I was playing, a bunch of the other street performers that I'd seen earlier were a bunch of contortionists, and they came up and they said, "Do you mind if we do some contorting while you play?" I said, "Sure." I've never played as an accompaniment or do a duo with a bunch of contortionists before. Is pretty amazing. But then not only that, the other thing that was really wild was that the sound was bouncing off these buildings in this downtown area. And one of the things that's really fun as a performer is I love to play to the environment. So if you ever see me play and there's like crickets out, I'll be playing to the crickets, right? And so it's a magical thing, because then you might be like, well, yeah, it's everything just clicked. So this is something I wrote that was called Every Day is a New Adventure, because if you really think about it, it really is. I mean, let's face it, you're not going to get younger, so you might as well add some more experiences in when you can. Always fun. And of course, you know, if this is your first time in visiting the festival, this festival goes on the last Saturday of every month. Is that right, John?
Yeah, I mean, there's an exception for like a Halloween or New Year's Eve. Yeah, for the most part.
That's right. I can understand that, right? So, but thank you again for coming on out to help support Cancer Connections in San Francisco. It's a phenomenal thing. And of course, San Francisco has a history of it. So you stay on here. You can ask David Gans about it later. And of course, he'll be playing in, I don't know, about like a million hours. But in the meanwhile, there's a whole ton of great performers coming along. And a big thanks to all of them, to you for being here, buying a ticket to help support this. And of course, to John for throwing this on. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Thanks for playing.
Oh, I
This
don't
has been
know if
great.
you're going to
Thank
do a Q&A, Dan. You know what? You know what you can do, David, is you can play all kinds of answers on your instrument, and then, of course, I'm sure there'll be questions about how fantastic you really are, and you just have to wait for a couple of hours, then they'll get to see it. Take care, John. Thank you again.
Thanks, my friend.